Hello and welcome to the House of Valentina. I'm Valentina. Today we're going to be talking about designer styling tips that you can steal from Ikea. I've got 3 rooms to show you and we're going to dissect the photos just a little bit and talk about the styling hacks that they've used in these spaces to make them look absolutely amazing. These are tips that you'll be able to use no matter where you shop, and a lot of them are tips that you'll be able to use with things you already have. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I know that I love to just look through the photos and really understand what it is that they did that made the room look so amazing. And a lot of times those things are free and you'll be able to use them with things you have, or you'll also be able to shop at Ikea, or you can also shop in your local area. I know a lot of you don't have an Ikea, but today's video is gonna be for everyone and I think you're gonna love it. So I hope you'll hit subscribe. Don't forget that we also have an Ikea playlist that is loaded with designer tips and tricks, how to use things from Ikea, what to buy at Ikea, and even room makeovers using Ikea. So we hope you'll check all that out. But otherwise, let's jump into today's video. Okay, so first up we have a beautiful living room. I have been such a fan of this space for a little while. I keep going back to it. And after doing that quite a bit, I was like, let's chat about what it is that we love about this space. They've done a lot of things that are right in this space. One of the first things that I think is really interesting to notice is that they have a little bit of kind of greenery coming into the shot when you first look at it. This is really interesting. This is a designer styling tip that we use a lot of times when we photograph a room. And what it does is it really has the viewer think about the fact that there is something in front of the space. There's something going on beyond what they're seeing. And a lot of times when you're styling up your spaces, if you have rooms that connect to each other, thinking about how they connect to each other and how the rooms feel as you segue from one to the other is a really important designer trick that we use no matter what space we're designing. So whether you're styling up your bedroom, you're styling up a living room, a dining room, an entryway, don't just look at the space that's right in front of you. Also notice all the rooms that are around you. Sometimes you'll need to put something in a space that helps you to segue. So a console table is a really good example of that. You might have a console table that's sitting behind the sofa, and that way there's something that's in the foreground of your room before you really even arrive to it. It also means that when you're sitting in the room, you'll also have something to look at that takes you into the next space. In a dining room, you might want to think about adding some flowers onto the table, especially if it's connected to your kitchen, which a lot of us have those open plans. And so if you have a beautiful vase that's sitting on your dining room, it becomes a part of the design of the kitchen, because you might be standing back. Maybe you have 3 rooms that are connected. You've got your living room, your dining room, and your kitchen. Well, when you're standing in your living room, you see all those rooms all put together. That's an interior design trick that we use for every single project. We always think about the entire environment around us and how they relate to each other, and that little trick is free. One of my favorite tricks that they've used in this space is one that I definitely use myself in my own projects, and that is putting the gray shelves on a gray wall. When you first look at the photo, it looks like the shelves are actually built into the space when actually they're not. In fact, they're just a simple Ikea bookshelf, and you can match the color of those to a paint color, and that way it really gives you a very built-in look. So think about if you're gonna have a bookshelf on a white wall, you might wanna think about having a white bookshelf. Same for the black. Whether it's a bookshelf or it's a different kind of piece of furniture, they also have a lot of beautiful wood tone bookshelves, and you might want to think about matching those to a beige color. It really gives you a very immersive, cohesive look. One of my favorite things that Ikea is just a master of, and I feel like I've always learned a lot from them, is the fact that they always create a feeling as if there's life going on in the space. In this space, they did that in a few different ways. First of all, you feel like that's a stick sitting on that mantle that maybe they were out in the forest and gathered. Maybe they bought it at a store, but it's the feeling that there was something gathered in the space. Then you've got the knitting. Hopefully that is knitting, right? Not crochet. Sorry, I don't do either one, so I'm not 100%. I think it's knitting needles. But I do think that it is nice to have that feeling as if someone has just gotten up from the space. This is something that I like to do in my spaces. A lot of times I do it with a blanket because I feel like people don't want their spaces to feel too messy or too lived in when I deliver them to them. People don't want their spaces to look too lived in when I deliver them to them. They're expecting me to give them something that looks fairly put together. But so a lot of times I just will throw the blanket down, and that's a really easy way of creating life in a space. But I think this is also a reminder that our spaces are meant to be living. They're meant for us to live inside of them. And we shouldn't be afraid to have little pieces of life in our spaces. The other thing that they've done is that on the side table, there's a coffee cup. And I've got my coffee cup sitting right here. And a lot of times if you walk around my house, you know, we've left some things places and there's that feeling of life. And I think I always hope that whether it's something that we're creating for our clients or we're chatting with you guys, this feeling of life in our spaces is probably the most important thing that we'll ever do as a designer. It's creating a space that you actually want to live in. As you think through your rooms and your own designs and your own home, think about how you're going to actually live in the space and how you're going to interact with it and what you hope to be able to use the room for. And think about how you'll be inviting people over and the way in which the pieces will either benefit you or detract from your ultimate goals. And definitely think through those things before you start buying furniture and putting things in. A simple side table can really create the feeling that you're meant to sit down in a living room. I think adding a bench to the bedroom is another easy way of doing this because it also adds that feeling that you're supposed to sit down, you're supposed to stay. Those are just a couple easy ways of using this one. Another great styling hack in this space is the bookshelves being full of multiple items. A lot of times we segment our spaces in our minds and we think this is what the room is for and nothing else is allowed in here. I like the idea of using your rooms in lots of different ways. And so if you have a bookshelf or you have a cabinet, maybe you have a media cabinet, think about all the different ways in which you can fill it for the uses that you really want it for. So if you like to entertain in your living room, having glassware on your bookshelves or maybe in your cabinets totally makes sense. It makes sense for you, it makes sense for your lifestyle. You might want to have some books and some things mixed in because you want to sit down and read your books. But a lot of times we just go into auto mode. How am I supposed to decorate a space? That's why I think Ikea is so amazing, because Ikea is, how do I want to live in this space? What kind of uses am I going to use this space for? Let me use those things to actually decorate the space with. That's how I think we should all be decorating our homes, instead of just thinking, I need decor for here. And we can add in decor, we can add in art and accessories and those things that are personal, really understanding what you're going to use the space for and allowing yourself to use it in multiple ways will really help you to really enjoy your home. I could keep going probably the entire video for that one room. I mean, the fact that the fireplace isn't real is another really great hack. But let's move on to this kitchen because it's loaded with a lot of great little tips and tricks in it as well. So a lot of times people are like, oh, IKEA kitchens, they're not gonna be very good. This picture proves whatever. You can do amazing things with IKEA kitchens. You can do amazing things if you're working on a budget. A lot of it comes down to how you use it and how you put it together. So in this space, they've done one thing that I think is really compelling, and that is using a shelf that starts in the kitchen and segues all the way over into the dining space. I've worked with a lot of kitchen designers over the years, and a lot of them don't like to do that. They want the kitchen to stop right at that. They would want it to stop right at the bar. They wouldn't want it to keep going. They feel like that's almost like adding a comma, like there's not a period on the end of a sentence. I think it looks amazing. And I think it makes the kitchen feel a lot bigger, and it makes it feel like all of it's the kitchen. It's not just about cooking, it's about sitting, and it really extends that space. And I really like the fact that they used a clear shelf, because what it does is it makes that lime wash that they've got sitting on that wall just really pop. It really connects both areas of the kitchen. Another thing they've done in this kitchen, which I think is really interesting and something that I'm like, ooh, are we gonna be seeing more of this? They've taken the bar area and instead of adding stools there, it looks like they didn't have space, but instead of adding stools there, what did they do? They actually raised the bar. I think that's very interesting because we've been taking those high bars out of houses for a long time. Most people haven't been putting those into their houses for about It's been about 30 years actually. Most people don't want the high bars. I have clients that ask me to leave it because they like it. Because what it does is when you're in the dining space, or if it's connected to your living room, you don't see all the mess that's sitting on the countertop. And a lot of people really like that look. So I think that's a very interesting little hack. And it might encourage you if you're one of those people that's got the high bar and you were feeling like maybe you needed to change that out. It's something to really consider. Now there it looks like they did it because they didn't have any space to put stools, but I like it. I think it's really effective. Another interesting hack that I think we should all be stealing is the mix of textures and shape in this space. They're masters of it. That's what I love about Ikea. They have some of the most amazing designers. You can actually buy, what's his name? Is it Glenn? I think it's Glenn. I'm gonna write it down in the comments. You can actually purchase these books, and I've owned them for years, and I've studied them a million different times. They have master stylists that work for them. So these are like the best of the best. So I will leave the link for the books that you can buy from their stylist, at least just one of their stylists. But in here, they've really mixed the textures and shapes in this space. So you've got the wood cutting boards that really soften the look of the cabinets. They've got those vases in there that have a very raw kind of feeling to them. Those are not sold at Ikea. In fact, they've got it mixed with they've got something they've collected from somewhere else that's really rustic, mixed with what looks like the Ikea cylinder vase. So you can mix your materials, take something rustic, put it with something that's kind of clear and has a little bit of a shine to it. And then you can also create a collection like they did and just use the branches. Those are all great styling tips that you can steal from this and use in your own kitchen, whether you have open shelving or not. You could do this on your countertop. You could do it underneath if you've got upper cabinetry. You could still use these tips and tricks. Another thing that they've done that I really love is they've created that feeling as if someone is actually using the kitchen. So you've got the towel and you've just got it laying over the countertop. And I think it's nice to have the little grapes and this feeling like this is a living space. It's not just a showpiece. You can make it look absolutely beautiful, which they have. I mean, truly, it is a showpiece, but it's also meant for real life, and I think that's gorgeous. I could talk about this kitchen probably for the whole video as well, but I did promise that we were gonna do 3 rooms. Let me know in the comments if you like these kinds of videos and if you find them helpful, because next time we might do 3 more rooms, or I'll focus more time on each one and we can break it down even more. But let's talk about this bedroom before we get too far into this, because I think that there are some amazing styling hacks in this one that we can all steal. First of all, the room, of course, is absolutely gorgeous, and they've done something really crazy. They've created storage in a room that didn't have a place for a closet. They put the bed right in the center of the room and added the storage behind it. Sometimes people really love that feeling, and sometimes they'd rather the bed be against the wall. But I think thinking creatively about your space is the #1 thing to take away from this. You might just walk into your room and think, bed goes here, dresser goes here, and that's all I got. Well, a lot of times you can think through how to really creatively use your space. Maybe you've got an area, if you offset your bed, where you would be able to have room for a chair and a sitting area. You might want to think about how you could visually divide the space and make it make sense when you use it. If you think about a living room, a lot of times we think, okay, everything has to be in this quadrant and everything has to fit in, you know, just the way they would have it in the showroom. Well, a lot of times we don't have rooms that really work that way. So think creatively in that way. Think about how you might use your space and all the uses that you need to use it for, and then start backing yourself up. What can I do with this room? I know that this room is supposed to be all about storage, but my favorite thing about this space is actually the color palette that they used. I really love that neutral color palette, and that's something that you can steal for your own home. Think about the color palettes that you really find yourself drawn to. If you like this neutral color palette, you might want to think about how you could add some browns, some grays, some whites, and some creams all into the space that you already have. That's actually quite easy to do. Let's say for a living room, you've got some white sofas, or maybe you have some beige sofas. Think about how you might be able to add some pillows or throw and some key accessories into the space, and it will instantaneously give you a full color palette. You don't want your rooms to be single noted. You don't want them to feel like everything is all matching in one color. Adding a variation of color into each one of your spaces helps it to feel like there's something interesting going on, and it gives a juxtaposition that's very interesting for your eye. So creating difference in your colors and layering them on within your space will really help your space to just come alive. In this bedroom, they used a sort of brownish color throughout the entire room. They used it in the clothing, they used it in the furniture that was located behind the bed. They also added that wood tone over on the vanity table, and they've moved that brown color throughout the entire room so that your eye feels like it's connected throughout the space. Obviously, we can see that they've used white throughout. They've used it in the bedding, they've used it in the closet, they've used it on the vanity table. They've added the white mirror over the top, and then they also added white accessories to that table itself. So they've also moved the white around the room. That's a designer trick that we use for every space. Spreading those colors out and having them disperse throughout the space helps them. I said space. I'm like, I hope you're not playing the drinking game because I just said space like 9,000 times. You're gonna be toast. Hope you're drinking water for this game. But it really does help you when you take those colors and you take them all around the room, all around the bedroom, the living room, whatever, I can't avoid it, whatever space you are designing for. You really want to think about a color palette and how it can be reflected in multiple ways and represented in multiple ways throughout the entire space. We can't look at this room without chatting about storage. I mean, honestly, it's unavoidable because it's genius. Hiding things in plain sight is something we talk about all the time on this channel, and that's because it's genius. You want your rooms to feel, I tried to change the word. Did you pick up on that? You want each one of your rooms to feel neat and tidy. You want them to feel like everything is put together. How do you do that if you have a lot of stuff? I mean, I dream of being a true minimalist, but I can't do it. I can't do it. We lived in Scandinavia for 6 years and had all these examples around us, and still I'm like, I just still like to have stuff, okay? I think storing in plain sight is genius because you can put things in baskets, you can hide things with curtains. That's a great hack right there. I think using baskets even on your shelving looks really good. I also think that the bed that they used is also genius. I have one of those in my 14-year-old's room. I bought one of their beds that has storage underneath, and it's really helpful. It's really helpful to be able to throw stuffed animals in there for him. And my daughter had a bed like this when she was younger, and she stored in the drawers. I find it very useful. You can also think about how you might add a piece of furniture into your room that has it creates a multi-purpose for your room. So in here, you get the feeling that they wouldn't have had a place to put all the cosmetics. Maybe this might be a desk for you, and maybe the bedroom is a place where you have plenty of space and you might be able to add a piece of furniture in for an office, a vanity. What else would you use it for? If you just like a writing desk, somewhere to do your bills rather than like you're just working at it. I think also a sitting area can be really nice, but think about other rooms because that's just the bedroom. You could take that mentality in other rooms of your house, your living room, maybe your breakfast room. So just think about how you might be able to extend your storage by simply adding a different piece of furniture into your room. Maybe a little bit non-traditional, but it helps you use your rooms and your space the way that you really want to. Hopefully you have been drinking water for that drinking game and you're fully hydrated now. But I do hope that these little tips and tricks have really just left you feeling really inspired. I know I felt really inspired after looking at these rooms. I really love to just analyze the photos. That's what I do as a designer. And I really try to figure out what is it that really made this room memorable for me. And how do I do that in my own rooms? And I think that that's the easiest way to teach yourself about what you really love, what you really enjoy, And it's not just about what you love to look at, but also how you want to live in your home. I think that's really important. So I hope these tips and tricks have been really helpful. I'll leave the links for where you can find those images on Ikea. And if I've shown any links for items that I think you'll be interested in, I always try to leave those down below in the show notes for you. But otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you'll give it a big thumbs up, and let me know down in the comments which of these 3 rooms was your favorite and which tip today is the one that you're gonna be testing out, maybe even over the weekend. I hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Cheers, you guys.